Well, good afternoon. I felt inspired to share a very personal story with you. I realize that there are a lot of people that are, tight right now, struggling. That's always the case. It's not just unique to today, but it's always the case. You see that. And I had an email from a new member who joined the school a few days ago, a week ago, and said that they deal with financial consulting and helping people who are basically living on, cheap processed food, the cheapest stuff you can buy, because they feel like they can't afford to buy, you know, decent, healthy food. And when I read her comment about that, I thought, boy, can I relate to that? And I bet you there's a lot of other folks too. They think, "Oh, I can't afford organic food or filet mignon or whatever it is that you think is good and healthy." And they're in that place. And I want to share something with you that just this is a bonus, but I shared it with her in a video comment to her, but I want to make this available to everybody. So here's the story. In 1984, after losing everything I had, I used to have a nice custom built home, a nice, beautiful town home in a beach community in British Columbia, a beautiful, nice Lincoln Continental, and all those kinds of things. And they were all gone. I didn't even have a car. And I took all my possessions and put them into what I had left of them with three big boxes. And I was taken to the Greyhound bus station in British Columbia and got on a Greyhound bus, and was a passenger across Canada to the city of Toronto, arriving at 10:30 at night, something like that, in November. It's cold there, especially at night at that time of year. And I got off the bus, and those boxes were very difficult to carry. I mean, one of them was particularly big, and the other two were quite substantial. Had all my clothes and different things. Whatever I had left in life, that's it. Had a few books. It was sad, really. And I had gone there because I had applied for and successfully secured a job over the phone in Toronto. So I was going to be having a job on straight commission selling copiers, something I did not want to do, but I knew I could do it. At least I had that experience in the past. And so I get there, and I called my brother. He picked me up. I stayed with them for a little bit until I could get a paycheck, get some money, and do two things. I got an advance on my paycheck, which enabled me to put money down and lease a car and to rent a place. And the place I rented was a spare bedroom in this other gentleman's two-bedroom townhouse. Pretty sparse. I mean, the townhouse was okay, but I'm just saying, not exactly who you're thinking. One day I want to grow up and live in somebody else's place and share their bed and rent a bedroom from them. But anyway, that was my reality at the time. And so I'm off and I'm doing sales and I'm doing my job, and winter comes on, January, December, January, February. Oh my gosh, cold, snowing. I was cold calling, making one day I remember making over 100 physical cold calls in one building out, in one building out. And every time I would go out, it was so cold and wintry and blizzard like that my mustache would freeze and I'd have icicles on my mustache. And then I'd go inside the next place and it would melt and it didn't look too pretty. But I was determined somehow I got to make this work. And I worked so hard and got absolutely nothing out of that particular day and very little out of the rest of the year or the 8 months I was with the company. But here's what happened. During that time, when I was really just meagerly existing, I said, Lord, I I'm tired of this. I'd been eating peanut butter and toast in the morning for breakfast and peanut butter sandwiches for lunch and or dinner. That was it. Peanut butter. And I had some marmalade, I think. And so my rationale was, okay, I'm going to have peanut butter, that's a protein. I'm going to have bread, that's wheat. I'm going to have jam, there's some fruit in there. And I'm going to have some apple juice, that's some more fruit. And that was kind of my diet. And I was tired of it. And to break up the monotony of like having manna every day, having peanut butter every day, to break up the monotony of that, sometimes back in 1984, I would go to I don't know what the right term, what this image, what this word evokes in your mind, but there was an office park where all kinds of executive offices were. And among those places was a lounge. I, my memory, there wasn't any performance. There might have been somebody playing the piano, something like that. And it's where people gathered after work to socialize, is what it was, and have drinks and so forth. Well, I couldn't afford that, I went. I'd go there occasionally, and I'd order a soft drink, either I don't know, Dr. Pepper or Pepsi or something like that, or ginger ale, I think is what I had. But anyway, I'd order that, and then I would nurse it. I would just take sips off of it, right? And what they would have at various tables and on the bar and so on, they would have these bowls of peanuts and Chex and different, little pretzels and things like that. And on occasion, they would also have a little bit of a hot bar, some hot wings and some celery and some ranch dressing, things like that. Just that was all free for the patrons to make them thirsty and to feed them a little bit so they wouldn't leave and go get something to eat. They could kind of have their appetite, met a little bit. I'd go there, spend whatever it cost, $2 for a soft drink, something like that. I'd eat dinner. My dinner was peanuts and pretzels and, oh, celery, whatever I could scrounge up. Oh, that's pretty bad, right? And then I come back and say, okay, I ate dinner. And I kind of lived like that for a while. And one day I just got fed up. I said, God, I am sick and tired of just having peanut butter. This is not right. I don't like this. This is not. And he asked me a question. He said, have you ever run out of peanut butter? I said, well, no. You know why? No. He said, because you have peanut butter faith, meaning that I believed I wouldn't run out of peanut butter. I believed I could afford peanut butter. I believed that. Maybe you're watching this and you think, well, I can afford macaroni and cheese. I can afford those things. And whatever you're living at, your standard of living that you may not be happy with, subconsciously below that, you're thinking, well, I can afford that. And so he basically told me, you have peanut butter because that's all you believe me for. You're confident that you'll be able to buy peanut butter and jam, jelly, whatever it is. You're confident that you'll do that. Maybe scrounge up some peanuts and pretzels at the local lounge thing. That's what you're believing for, so that's what you're having. But you don't have to have that. You can have more. And I was like, what? Wow. It was a revelation. So I decided the next day, the first chance I had, might have been the same day. I don't remember now. I immediately elevated my faith to pork chop faith, to lamb chop faith. I went to the grocery store and I bought meat, bunch of meat, and I bought frozen vegetables or whatever I could get, fresh vegetables, whatever I was getting, I don't remember. But basically, meat and vegetables, right? And potatoes and whatever I could think of that I really wanted at the time. It wasn't organic. I didn't even know about that at that time. But it was a lot better than just having a peanut butter sandwich. And you notice something? From that day forward, I never had a peanut butter sandwich as my mainstay unless I just happened to desire a peanut butter sandwich, which I still do on occasion. So I elevated it and I noticed something that now that I believe for pork chops and lamb chops and maybe, excuse me, maybe a steak or something like that, I never ran out of that either. It's like, wow. So I'd been living on peanut butter faith when I could have all the time been having pork chop faith or lamb chop faith or ribeye faith. Whoa, something like that. So I wanted to share this with you because it was a turning point in my life 40 something years ago. And maybe some of you are there right now. And I want to encourage you to elevate yourself a little bit. Say, I don't know if I can afford this. I don't know, but that's up to you. But I'm encouraging you to amp up the faith a little bit. I didn't charge $5,000 for this course. I could have. A lot fewer people would have gotten in, but those that did would have been very happy with it. I made it so that people that are living with the equivalent of peanut butter faith could say, well, I can afford the pork chops. I can, what's that, $3 a day or something like that. It's not a big ask, right? So I did it to put in reach because I remember what it was like. And I remember those days of pain, emotional pain, when one day down by a little creek in Toronto, I just took a break and I went, I saw going, with the road, and there was a little creek going underneath it. And I pulled over and I climbed down to the side of the little stream, I guess it was. And I read Romans 8:32, and it just jumped out at me. For God, who spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? And I read that and it just went off in me like, that's the way you are? And it made so much sense. For God who spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? So if this is one of the things that you want, then I encourage you to step out, to do it. I'll leave the decision to you, but I wanted to share this with you and hoping that it might boost your faith a little bit. And if you do decide to join, good. I look forward to having you. And if you don't, I hope that we'll stay in touch. I wish you the very best, no matter which way you go. All right. God bless you. Bye-bye.